Have your attention, we'll go ahead and get our meeting called to order. We do have agendas right here on the podium where Jessica's standing, so if you'd like to grab one and follow along with us, you're certainly welcome to. The first order of business are going to be 2 public hearings, and so I'm going to call on our assistant attorney, city attorney, Elizabeth Torres, to start or Jessica, are you doing the public hearing? Okay, all right, I'm sorry, Jessica, I'll call on our city clerk to conduct the public hearing.
All right, good afternoon. Before we go into the public hearing, I do have the standards for exercising zoning powers. They're on file here, and the Georgia Conflict of Interest laws are also available here as a handout, and they're available on our website. The application we have tonight, the first one is a public hearing for the zoning application PP 210046. Received from Bruce Payne, requesting a rezone of approximately 54 acres located on North Carpenter Road from residential R14 to suburban agriculture. Based on that description and the property, I'm going to ask the council the conflict of interest questions to determine if there are any known conflicts with the applicant or property. So council, have any of these applicants or opponents to this application contributed at least $250 to any campaign for election during the past 2 years?
No.
Do any members of your family have a property interest that would be affected by the proposed rezoning or reclassification of the property, whether it is a positive or negative impact?
No.
Do you or any of your family members have any financial interest in any business entity that has a property interest in any real property that would be affected by the proposed rezoning of the property, whether is it a positive or a negative impact?
No.
All right. Seems that there are no known conflicts, and each of you are eligible to participate in this hearing. I'll go ahead and let Crystal, wherever she's at, give an overview of more information on the application.
I'm waiting on your screens to pop up in the big screen. So we didn't have any zoning items on the agenda last month, so we kind of overdid it tonight because y'all missed our department just a little too much. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and flip to the next one. All right, so just an overview of the request that is before you. So Planning and Zoning met on February 14th and recommended approval of this zoning application. However, they recommended using conditional zoning and placing the one condition that this property could only be used for stables with a suburban agricultural designation. So the property is on Carpenter Road. They are requesting from R14 to suburban agriculture, and suburban agriculture opens it up to a whole lot of different kind of uses. That's why Planning and Zoning recommended to just limit the one use to stables instead of a site plan. You know, that's another way of kind of controlling the development. But then you come into these issues of any time the site plan is amended, then it has to come before you again and again and again and again. And at this preliminary stage of development, the applicant hadn't fully come to the conclusion of exactly how he wanted the stables to look, where they wanted positioning and things like that. So Planning and Zoning came up with the way of just limited it to one use. To the next one. So as you can see by the circle on the screen there, this is the property that's in question. It's R14 zone, and this is just showing you the zoning that's in the area. There's not a lot of suburban ag in that area, so that's something that you'll definitely want to take into consideration. Now, however, we don't see any issues with it. This isn't a use that would typically cause a lot of harm to its neighbors or an eyesore, produce a lot of noise or anything like that. So given that, we're recommending approval. And then we have our comprehensive plan map. So it's in the transition suburban character area, which is typically commercial or it's residential in nature. On to the next one. And that's really the end of it. This one's a pretty short application. It's just they want to build stables. We don't see any problems with that. Just didn't feel that opening up that one piece of property, it's a pretty large piece of property, didn't want to open it up completely to the suburban ag designation, so just limiting that one use.
Thanks, Crystal. So now is the time to have the public comment. Do we have anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application? You want to speak? Sure. Come on, Ms. Reed. Just state your name and your address.
Hello, fellas. I'm Bruce Payne. I live at 3006 Orchard Circle here in Tifton. We own a piece of property on Carpenter Road, which is around 57 acres. And it had been approved for a subdivision, but when you got to spend about $1.8 million for infrastructure, you know, you got to sell your lots for $75,000 a piece, you know, and I can't see that. So it's been sitting there since 2006, and it doesn't. I talked with Tyrone Spearman, just asking him, and he thought it'd be a great idea to turn that into stables for hopefully a lot of ABAC students, you know. So they want to bring their horses when they come to school and stuff. There's 2 farms, one on the left of it and one on the right of it, that's owned by ABAC, you know. One's a farming operation. The other is kind of cattle on the other side. It's a old Smith farm that faces Zion Hope Road. The other was green properties on the left side, which was about 100 and maybe 35 acres. And I noticed they just built a standstill building up there on the property line on up. So we had turned in some kind of diagrams of what we were going to do, and hopefully we was only going to start out with maybe a few horse stables, which we're going to make them very neat looking. A rail fence up on Carpenter Road, some type of rail fence that's kind of, you know, not an eyesore. And then maybe make an entrance where it goes in at now with a gate there to where the students can go in and out as they need to, you know. So that's kind of our plan, which we're planning on, you know, you got a lot of acreage. We're planning on cutting it up in sections and fencing it in for grazing areas, you know, for the horses. And keep the grass up to where we can move the horses from one to another while we water down the other and getting them fertilized again, you know. So that's our plans. And hopefully we're going to name it Stallion Stables. So that's all I got to say to y'all fellas. All right.
Do we have anyone that wishes to speak in opposition of the application? All right, seeing none, we'll close that one. All right, and we'll go to the next one. The next public hearing we have tonight is on zoning application PP 220004 concerning a text amendment to the City of Tipton Land Development Code to add cryptocurrency mining operations to the table of uses and to add standards for cryptocurrency mining operations. This application is being brought before the council and the Planning and Zoning Board by the City of Tifton. So usually when that happens, we don't ask the conflict of interest questions. We'll get Crystal to do an overview of it, and then we'll open it up for public comment.
So I wanted to kind of start out by saying I'm not a cryptocurrency expert. If you ask me how to mine these things, I couldn't tell you anything. But from my research into what these facilities can look like and what some other ones look like in other parts of the state, it tells me that if we don't have standards, if we were to get a Bitcoin operation, it could look many different ways and could produce a lot of unwanted sounds to neighbors nearby. So what you're looking at here, this one's in Sandersville, and it was, to me, one of the best examples of how not to build a cryptocurrency operation. These facilities are all outdoors, which means their sounds are amplified and not controlled, really. There's no site design standards. There's nothing that would make this attractive to the city at all. Sometimes we have these developments, and even though they're not something that everyone would get excited about, we can make them look nicer, and they wouldn't be such an eyesore. So wanted to show you this one to kind of tell you where the inspiration for the standards came from, so you can kind of have a picture in your head when we go through them. So the first standard that we are proposing is that cryptocurrency mining operations be limited to one zoning district. That's the heavy industrial zoning district. There are 5 parcels in the city of Tifton that have this zoning designation. The ones on the southern end of the screen right here, they're Curtis Packin, the wholesale, the warehouse operation. One is owned by the city of Tifton, and then the other is I forget the name of it, but it's the fertilizer distribution center on Ferry Lake Road. That is what it would be limited to. So let's just go over all of these standards, and I'm here to present this to the public and take any questions that the public may have on these proposed standards. Just going to kind of briefly go through them. So we have a heavy industrial zoning district, the only zoning district. Minimum lot size would be 5 acres with 150-foot setbacks on all sides. The servers, computers, processors, materials, and equipment would be required to be enclosed in buildings. So like that picture that you saw right there, that's not what would be in Tifton. What would be in Tifton would be something that was more like a warehouse, and then all of those would be located within a building to offset some of those sounds and to make it look a little bit better. It would also be subject to our commercial design standards, so it wouldn't just be a metal building. It'd have to have some decorative elements to it and a mix of materials as well. Cargo containers, rail cars, and semi-truck trailers and other similar storage containers are not allowed. You think it's a little bit strange that this is in here, but cargo containers and old railway cars are the 2 most popular things to put these computers in because they're cheap. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant would need to provide written verification from the power provider, either Georgia Power or Colquitt EMC, that the applicant has calculated the maximum electrical consumption during peak hours, saying that the energy provider could carry this load. No cryptocurrency mining operation shall produce a noise level exceeding 90 decibels from the distance of 25 feet from the exterior property line. 90 decibels is about the equivalent to a push lawnmower. A fence with a minimum height of 6 feet must be installed with a sign containing the name of the facility owners, operators, their addresses, telephone numbers shall be posted on that fence. That's in the case of a fire. If we needed to notify somebody that their facility was on fire, it would be easy to find out who we needed to call. Cryptocurrency mining operations shall be buffered by the following, and these are the same standards that we put on solar farms, but a 25-foot buffer maintained on the outer perimeter of the fencing shall be landscaped. Landscaping shall include trees, shrubs, hedgerow that will attain a minimum height of 10 feet with full opacity within 5 years of installation. The above requirement may be met by existing vegetation. The property upon which the cryptocurrency mining operation is located shall be maintained as required under International Property Maintenance Code. Fire safety. An active clean agent fire protection system must be provided and maintained in good working order with any structure which contains a server farm. High-sensitivity smoke detectors shall be installed and operational in order to activate the clean agent fire suppression system. There shall be an emergency electrical termination switch installed outside of any containment structure which contains a server farm. The equipment used in any server farm shall be housed in any individually metered, electronically grounded structure with a fire rating designed to resist an internal electric fire for at least 30 minutes. And D, all building requirements required by this section, including but not limited to the heat transfer apparatuses, fire detection, suppression systems, or containment structures shall be designed by the State of Georgia licensed engineer and in accordance with all applicable codes and standards. And finally, heat. The ambient temperature inside the containment space which houses a server farm shall not exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit at any time. No person shall be permitted to regularly inspect or work within the containment area which houses a server farm if the ambient temperature within the containment area exceeds 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Lastly, any server farm shall ensure that no more than 20% of the heat dissipated by the mining activity shall be released directly to the outside when the average daily temperature is less than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So those are all of the standards that we are proposing be placed on cryptocurrency mining operations, again, limited to a heavy industrial zoning district. Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions of Crystal, of our staff? Okay.
Just so, there's two parcels that would meet these or requirements. But one, the city owns one.
That's right.
And so then the other one could potentially be a site?
It's not undeveloped at this moment, though. It's currently being used as a fertilizer distributor. So if that fertilizer distributor sold that property to a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency mining operation, it could potentially turn into that. But again, it's not undeveloped at this point.
But
it could be in the future.
So
So it's limited to one site in the city. And any rezoning actions that may come before you. But again, those would come before city council.
any reason, so it would have to be,
Yeah, so if I decided that my parcel I have is R14 and I want to run a Bitcoin mining operation out of my house, I would have to seek rezoning to HI, heavy industrial, and that would come before you, just like Mr. Payne's application came before you.
but the one that's the fertilizer, it's already zoned.
It would be a permissible use by right at that point, so they would just come to our office and submit plans. Unless you wanted to make it, I mean, there's always the potential of making it a conditional use. If you made it a conditional use, instead of establishing standards, if you made it a conditional use, any cryptocurrency mining operation that wanted to locate here would have to come before council.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, I mean, I don't want it.
I don't either.
I don't want, I mean, you know, these people could sell out and next thing you know, we've got this thing. So what I'd want to see is how do we stop them from selling to somebody that wants to put one of these in at that property?
Well, if you made it conditional, you would always have your vote. So it would come before city council and each one of you would get a vote. And if your preferences were that you did not want these located in the city of Tifton, then three votes would make that happen. So it's either you can establish standards and it'd be permissible by right, or you can make it conditional. It's kind of two roads that you can go.
So when at the meeting, at our regular meeting, can we have that kind of laid out as an option if that's what we want to do?
Oh, absolutely. And if a cryptocurrency, it wouldn't be that, effort was lost on standards by any means. It would just mean that if you had a cryptocurrency mining operation that wanted to come before you because they wanted to build one in the city, you could use those. If you were in favor of it, you could use those as a kind of a starting point of conversation, I guess.
Well, I see no value in them, so I don't want one to slip in here regardless of whether there's currently a business. We know what happened. Businesses are sold every day.
Yeah, but that's really what happens. So you got two routes that you can go. You can go standards, and then it bypasses council.
Right.
So, or you can do conditional, where it always comes to council.
right, any other questions on cryptocurrency? All right, thank you, Crystal. Go ahead.
Do we have anyone that would like to speak in favor of the application? This is beyond the cryptocurrency mining. All right, and opposition?
All right, great, thank you. All right, on to our council workshop, and I do want to remind everyone that during our workshop, we will only be voting on the agenda. Tonight is just for discussion purposes only, and most of the items, if not all of them, that are on our agenda this evening will appear on our regular council agenda on the third Monday of the month for voting. So I've called the meeting to order, and you have the agenda before you. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
Make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, under old business, we are now talking about the, consider any action following the alcohol license hearing for Eastside Superette that we had a couple of weeks ago. So I'll open that up for discussion amongst the council members on how you'd like to move forward, or if you have any questions or anything concerning that action. Any questions of our attorney or each other?
I'm still confused about the whole darn thing, but that's okay.
Okay. Is that a question?
No, that's just a statement of fact.
Okay.
My personal feeling is there's been no violation in Tifton, so we should take that in consideration, that we're in control of Tifton.
Right, that's
So
right.
that's my opinion.
Yeah, if you'll recall, and the information is in our packet, the issue that this particular store owner had was in Fitzgerald, I believe, so.
Yeah, and I agree, I will, but I guess then, you know, we ask for background checks, and we ask for those kind of things, so if we limit ourselves, okay, well, as long as nothing's happened in Tifton, then it doesn't matter, you murdered somebody at the next county, or you running a gambling operation or whatever. I guess that's where it kind of throws me into, you know, not knowing
Right.
for sure what to do.
Right. Okay. Any other questions or comments concerning that particular issue before we move on and hear from Ricky on solid waste and recycling?
Are y'all prepared? At our council meeting, it was postponed, the action was postponed until tonight. Are y'all planning to take action tonight, or just want to continue that into the council meeting?
I say we just continue it to the council meeting at this point, and then that way we're not voting on any one thing this evening, if the rest of the councilmen are okay.
No
with
problem.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, let's do that. Let's put this back on the agenda of the regular meeting, and then we'll vote that evening if there's any action to be taken. All right, we'll call on Ricky Hobby and John Nail to talk about solid waste and recycling update.
Okay, if y'all recall last workshop that we had, we brought to your attention that there will be some changes in our recycling program. And so we've brought John with us here to give his recommendations for these changes.
Good evening. Thank you for seeing us tonight. As you know, the economic climate's pretty difficult. Been some really changes in the recycling market. There is no market for single stream at the time. We want to come before you, ask permission to suspend the single stream recycling curbside program effective April 1st, 2022. At the same time, we would offer a rate reduction to $17.33 a home from $18.33. And we'll continue to look for some ways, working with the city on how to maybe create a drop-off facility or see what other options we have. Recycling could always be reinstated when there is a market for it in the future. It's not something that we're saying this is totally gone permanently, but there is just nowhere to market it at the current moment. We're also, take that labor, we're going to keep those employees, but we're going to improve, some of the services. We're going to add that bulk service, add another day a week of bulk service. We'll have more time on yard waste, especially with spring coming up. So we're going to add another day of bulk service. And on a separate issue, we're going to ask permission, as you may have noticed, fuel prices today going up again. Information I have is they're going to go up again tomorrow for the ability to do a 5% fuel surcharge on commercial only due to the current prices of diesel. Again, look for another increase tomorrow on diesel. And no end in sight maybe on that. So.
John, you and Ricky talk about the drop-off.
Yeah, just want
Yeah.
to, y'all should have it on your screens there, some pictures. Jonathan, you can flip.
Yes.
This is in Centerville, Georgia. John and I visited this a few weeks back. And I just took a few pictures just to show you what it could be here in Tifton as an option if we could open a site and follow this example. This is a very good example. This place here is run by volunteers. Even though the city of Centerville owns it, it is all, operated by volunteers. As you can see, it's very clean. They separate each item out. Then they have a market for these items at that time. Instead of it being an expense, it would be an income. So because of the separation of the items.
Single stream is problematic now because of contamination primarily, but this is one of the best facilities I've ever seen or been involved in this industry, and we haul it for Centerville. They just do an outstanding job. People are so bought in, they're proud of it. I mean, they take cooking oil, car batteries. They're able to do way more by separating these items, add a lot more value to the community than they're able to do with a curbside program. I mean, I don't know how many people you counted. We wanted to look at it, but they were just multiple people. Volunteers running, there's community pride. But everything from cooking oil to car batteries to glass to cardboard, they take it all. Metal, appliances. You end up with a lot less expense on your bulk because appliances go in recycling rather than getting picked up and taken to the landfill. I mean, it's a great program to have. And they actually take donations, and people donate. I meant to mention that.
Yeah, they have
Have a donation
donation
box.
boxes there.
People are so proud of it that they come in, they put a 5 in when they bring in, and they really offset their expenses with it.
Would this just be open to residential recycling, or could we do
It could be open.
any
It could be open to any recycling
Okay.
because as it's separated, cardboard is one of the biggest things in the city. But commercial-wise, they could bring that there.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, I agree, I like that.
This is the only way to get true recycling.
Right.
Because, as we spoke before, all it takes is one can to contaminate a whole load.
That's right.
And then where they carry it, it can be refused at that time. Or it costs them $90 to $150 a ton to get rid of it. So that just, this is really the only way. And I don't know, you were here years ago. We used to do recycling
Right.
curbside. We had to stop it at that time. Even though we did do it curbside and we separated it, it was still contaminated when
Right.
we got it. This way, there's minimum contamination. The person on site makes sure that they can recycle what they have.
I may be getting the cart before the horse here, but are we looking at one site or multiple sites around the community, or?
That could be up to y'all too, that way. I mean, we're looking at, they're looking at a site for their permanent home also, and they're willing to partner with us and, make the sites happen.
To me, you start out with a site
Yeah,
and see, I
Right.
love this volunteer, anything that's free. And see how that works. And if it becomes too much, well, you have to open another site. It's not like Tifton's huge and people can't.
I've already got your name down on the list as the first volunteer.
I was waiting, Ricky. I'm surprised it took that long for somebody to suggest that I volunteer. But
So as far as like the containers and things that they have, I mean, obviously those things have to be bought to get this
That's
thing
right,
up
or
and running.
leased, whatever,
Oh, okay,
lease them.
okay.
We provide them in Centerville as part of the contract, so it's built into the contract, and then we haul it at our cost of haul, so they have a very low haul rate, but that's all built into the contract as how they recycle. That's how they chose to do it rather than curbside, so it's built into the rates of their contract. So the center itself has a low cost for them.
And y'all have any ideas of a location yet? I mean, just.
Well, they've been looking at a site over here on 9th. There's nothing been done, but 9th Street has a It used to be a ready-mix concrete. It's now owned by S&P Petroleum. They're already trying to inquire of that site. The city of Tifton has a few sites around that could be possibly used for that also.
Okay.
Okay, this is certainly a step process. We have to educate our residents about taking away the cans.
Rarely, we're going to, if you're okay, we'll proceed with suspending that. That is first. In the interim, until we decide on the drop-off facility, City of Tifton residents are able to use the drop-off facility at the convenience centers in the county per their contract, so that the resident can take the recyclables there in the interim as we continue to study this. But I would task Ricky and John to come up with a timeline for this as we go into the budget season and look at this. We have to identify a place, but more importantly, how we're going to fund that. So I will do that. If you're okay with that, we'll go into May and June. We should have some answers by then as to what to do, the best way to approach it anyway.
Okay.
I got another quick question. You mentioned, or you put on here, an additional pickup for bulk items, and then you mentioned yard debris. So are we going to pick up yard debris more than once?
Well, what we're going to do is take those employees, we're going to continue to pick it up once, but it's going to give us more support, especially coming into spring. So we're going to keep those employees that do recycling. And so we're going to add another day of bulk service. We do bulk service 1 day a week now. So we're going to go to 2 days a week. And we'll be able to also use them to support the rest of the city services on the other days.
To maintain a daily pickup.
Maintain a daily pickup.
As your garbage service is.
Mondays
for Mondays, Tuesdays for
But
Tuesdays.
there's more, I mean, I differentiate bulk and yard debris. There's a whole lot more yard debris out there than there is bulk items.
Yeah, we currently run 2 trucks, 2 grapple trucks on brush, and what he's trying to say is we'll use the rear load to assist the grapple trucks throughout the week on the brush to help maintain that daily pickup on the brush.
Maintain that pickup. Okay, I hear you.
They're
Maintain's
putting
one
more
thing,
people-
adding another pickup is something else. My point is,
They're putting more people and trucks out there for the yard waste for the whole week. Instead of them being on the recycle side, they'll be on the yard waste side.
I got you. I'm just saying, the need that I've seen is for yard debris, not bulk items. I mean, but I just don't see that many bulk items when I'm going around.
Well, we're going to clean them both up. It's all going to be clean. So it'll be premier on both. So we'll be all cleaned up.
Okay.
Okay.
When were the cans we picked up?
Well, based off of what you tell us tonight, we'd like to set it April 1st for a target on this. And if you're okay, we don't need any formal action. So if you're okay with that, we'll start.
It would actually be, I'm not sure if April 1st is your recycle week. We would have to check the calendar, but.
Yeah, that Friday would be the last day of that recycle week.
They'd probably start immediately, looking at planning, getting education. The biggest thing is letting our residents know on the recycle pickup day, taking the cans, and they're going to store them. So I would say within the next 30 to 45 days, the cans will be picked up. But we'll have notice before the first can is picked up, right,
Yes,
guys?
sir. Yes, sir.
As to what route is going to be picked up and when.
Okay.
So you're saying we don't need to take any action to do this?
If you'd like to, we can.
I'd rather not, but I mean, if we have to, we gotta
You think?
work that out.
Not a contract change. I don't think so. Well, I'll tell you, Rob will be back Monday. So I'll pose that to him if we need to do
We've got a
some.
meeting coming up, nothing's gonna take place before April 1st anyway.
We certainly can. You will have to, if it's okay, you'll have to vote on the 5% on the commercial fuel if you so choose to do that, but that'll be on the next agenda as well. But
And would have to approve the
That's right.
reduction in the.
okay, I'll talk to Rob as soon as he gets back.
Okay. Any other questions on solid waste and recycling? Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we are now under new business, and we've just had the public hearing received from Bruce Payne on the rezoning of the 54 acres roughly located on North Carpenter Road from R14 to SA. Any other questions, comments, information that anyone needs while we have everyone in the room?
The only thing I'd say is that is my district, and I've got a neighborhood across the street. I have heard nothing from them to say that they're opposed to this. I got a positive comment.
What's that?
I wanted to ask them, do they know about it? Because that was my
Yes, yeah.
My question was the community across from it. Was there anyone in opposition of it?
That community over there is pretty close knit, and when things happen, they know. Like they contacted me in the Crystal, I think they.
They all receive letters, and then on the sign that's posted on the property, it says specifically that it would be for stable usage.
Yeah.
But
And they,
we got phone calls in favor of.
yeah. They're pretty much letting me know when something's going on that they like or they don't like.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Okay, out on Carpenter Road, next door, we already have horses there. You know, people own horses next door to it.
Yeah.
So-
It's the people across the.
They're right
road
beside
there,
the property.
You know, Carpenter Commons that live on Cambridge Court.
Well, they live,
Those would be the ones, I've heard no complaints from them.
you know, so, like I say, they got horses there already, so, you know, what's it matter?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we move on to discussing the text amendment? All right. Any concerns, comments, questions of Crystal or any of our other team regarding the text amendment, proposed text amendment? Okay. Seeing none, let's move right along. All right. Crystal, do you want to talk about the plan development overlays?
All right, we're here. Okay, so should have worn my glasses tonight. I'm showing my age, but we have 12 approved PDOs that are on record. I want to go over with you what a PDO is. I throw out the term very loosely. It's used a lot in our office. In other governments, they're sometimes called PUOs, plan unit overlays. They are called PDRs. They get a lot of different terms, but they all serve the exact same function. So traditional zoning, you have residential where you can build residence. You have commercial where you can build commercial. And that's really the thick of it. We have, you know, all of the residential zoning districts. We have commercial. We have heavy industrial, which is heavy industrial, and then we have wholesale light industrial, and those are our zoning districts. So if we had just that, it makes the idea of mixed use developments very impossible. So way back in the day, the city council decided to open up PDOs, plan development overlays. So what these are, generally you can just think of it in terms of a site plan. But these are compatible uses that are put together that if not for this overlay, they would not be possible. So you can mix commercial use with residential use. You can mix single family use with multifamily use. It's just really mixing compatible uses. And they're generally done in such a way that architecturally they all fit together. So they're all planned at one time, they're designed to be this way, and they just are intended to be an asset to the community. Now, we talked about plan development overlays several times last year. So we had Mill Ridge. Mill Ridge came before you to ask that several of the houses that were zoned or planned to be single family be changed to duplexes. That request was denied. We also had Whidden Mill. They had an approved site plan, and the developer that had just acquired the land wanted to do something different. And while that request was approved, it brought me to thinking, okay, what all PDOs exist out there? They are on an approved basis. So if an ordinance was ever passed back in the history of city council, that overlay exists, and that is the only thing that can be done to that property, that approved site plan. You cannot deviate from those. So it got us to thinking, okay, what all PDOs are sitting out there? What are the status of them? And do we need to do anything about them? Some of them have been around since 2003. And, you know, things are different in the community than they were in 2003. The conditions have changed. the things that we need in the community, they've likely changed. So it just warranted us taking a look at all the PDOs that were here and just briefing everybody on them. So the ones that I'm going to talk about tonight, either they've had a little bit of progress and there are still pieces laying out there on them, or there have been no progress. The other ones, you see them, you know them. Mill Ridge, that subdivision is 70% built. You know about those. So the ones that say complete, we're not going to go into those. There's really nothing that we need to do on those. We're just really focusing on the ones that are halfway there or not there at all. Okay, so we've got Redbird Mobile Home Park. Don't know if everyone knows this, but in 2009, there was a PDO that was approved. Now, Redbird Mobile Home Park, it has between 50 and 60 mobile homes out there. They're in a very dilapidated state. In 2009, City Council approved this PDO. What you're looking at is the approved site plan. It is 38 single-family detached houses that would be strictly for rental. This is a total of 6.963 acres. Nothing has been done to date on this one. This was a LIHTC application, so that is a low-income housing tax credit application. So the developer applied to DCA for tax credits. I'm guessing they were not awarded. I didn't go all the way back to 2009 to check to see if they were awarded, but if they had been awarded, I'm sure this development would have been built. But there has been nothing done to date on this one. It's still in its current state of just dilapidated mobile homes, but this one is on the books. So this is, if somebody came to us with an application, this is what it would need to be for it to be approved for permitting. Next one. This is called Baldwin Square. So some of them had been given names in their ordinances. Some of them had to be named because there were so many of them that we talk about them in our office so much, and I bring them before you all, that they've been given affectionate nicknames like Wooden Mill and Mill Ridge. But this one was named in the ordinance. But it is, this ordinance unfortunately lacked a whole lot of meat. There is no approved site plan on record for this one. The only thing it says is that it's for multifamily. There's no approved site plan, and it's approximately 20 acres, just a little bit short of 20 acres. So if a developer wanted to develop this property, the thing that I would say to them is, well, there's no approved site plan on record, so you're going to have to go before City Council to see if you can get a site plan approved. But this is floating out there as a multifamily development that has no site plan or has not been developed to date. This is just south of Bruce Payne's application right there. It's in the top left corner. That big site up there, that's the Bruce Payne tract that we've been talking about a good bit of this meeting. So it's just directly south of Carpenter Commons.
Is that property for sale now? You remember these?
I remember all
Remember
this.
these
It's
people
real
came?
controversial, yeah.
They came just before I took office. They came to that meeting at the end of that year.
It's a very low area,
Yeah.
not desirable.
Right, the
Of course, the
concern
intent-
was what was gonna happen with the neighborhood that it would affect, what would happen with stormwater runoff and everything.
Yeah, I do believe a good bit of it is in the floodplain.
Yeah.
I did read that in the ordinance, but there's no site plan that's approved. I can't tell you density. So it's just, this one's floating out there. On to the next one. All right, this one, we call it Central Avenue. It's between 26th and 28th Street. It was originally adopted in 2007. It was amended in 2014 to increase the density. There would be 7 buildings with 4 units in each one, and then 2 buildings with 3 units in each one. So you can kind of see the pattern. If you're looking at the bottom left-hand side, BAAB, that's a unit, a unit, a unit, and that's kind of how you can really tell what you're looking at. But a total of 34 units on 5.6 acres. So that one's floating out there too. That one has not been developed at all.
This is between, wait, back up. That's between,
Go back for me. Right there.
there's 28.
It's the Garvey property.
26th and 28th on Central.
That's that right behind St. Anne's. That was the St. Anne's property they sold.
That's right, yeah, it borders St. Anne's.
Okay.
And then this one, this is the we call it the 20th Street PDO, but this is the one that includes the VA. What was approved was 6 buildings with professional offices, and it's 5.96 acres. On to the next one. This kind of shows you where we're at in terms of this PDO. This is a Google aerial, but you can obviously see that the VA has been built. But all of the things to the right of the screen, it's still undeveloped. So it's still kind of floating out there. I'm going to go back to the site plan.
Is that where Moon's Pharmacy?
There you go.
Did they buy that? What was a parking lot, I guess, for the church across there? Where their sign that says.
I don't know if they bought it or not, but their sign was there. Yeah.
I think that sign was there just for the veterans to like get their meds from there.
Yeah, so this is still all under one owner. On Q Public, everything is still under Edgemont Properties. Go ahead and go to the next one. I think that's the last one. Yep, so those are just the PDOs that either have been somewhat completed or no construction has started on these properties. So just, again, wanted to bring it back to you guys to know what's out there, and if you wanted to consider if you needed to do anything on these PDOs. They've been approved for some years, so I think it's time to rethink and decide again if they're necessary for the community.
So there's no expiration. Once it's approved, it's there.
That's
forever
right.
and ever, amen.
Until you repeal the ordinance, I suppose, is the correct terms.
And Mayor, Council, to be honest, we've been working on this probably for the last 2 years now, and Crystal and I have many discussions. It's my recommendation that you really take a hard look at this ordinance, and it really is time to repeal it and redo it and understand some of the details of it. For instance, timelines and what is in a PO and how the developer should deliver that, because it really is causing some problems within the city with what was expected to be there, and things change, which is, of course, that's part of doing business. But when it is put in an original state from the PDO, and there are things that could go in that aren't conducive to the area now, when you talk about 2007, 2009, we need to enhance this some, and I really would recommend that we do that.
Okay. We ran into this with Tip West and PDO, and it was kind of what's our best case scenario, which is the worst option kind of thing. Would we, if we decide, okay, do we have to give notice, I guess, to these that we've already issued it, and say, all right, you've got 12 months to do something with it? Is that what we would do?
That's going to be a Rob question. We do have to give notice to them, but what that amount of notice is, that I'm not sure of. I do know that we've got to do a check to see how much they've invested in the property. Legally, if they've done so much investment, then they did so knowing that the zoning was in place for that property, so changing that then becomes a legal issue. But we do have to give notice, but what that notice is, I can't tell you.
So we've got two issues here. One is, what do we do with these that are currently in place? And two, what do we do with the ordinance, and how do we change it?
That's correct.
Okay.
So yes, you're exactly correct. So if we could do that, and there's a term Rob have used repeatedly, if there has not been any capital investment in this property, then we're not obliged to hold up the PDO.
Okay. And what I'd suggest as you review this and look at what we have in our ordinances now concerning PDOs, if you have questions or suggestions or whatever, just send those to Crystal and Pete. And then that way we can have a discussion going so that your questions are answered in time for our next meeting and everything.
And if you even want PDOs going forward, I mean, that's always a question as well. We just ran into a bit of some issues with them last year for sure, so it just warranted a discussion.
Sure.
It's really interesting, and please give us some thought, and I'm hope we have some discussion on this year's retreat, but in the city of Tifton, there's certainly not any land being made. And we're running out of it fast. The comprehensive plan guides us. We understand conceptually what it should look like, but over time, The last 2 years really has been accelerant to building, and these acres are disappearing fast, so we've got to make sure we look at it.
Okay, all right, any other comments or questions concerning plan development overlays? All right, moving along, the next item on our agenda is review of the proposed enterprise zone for implementing local incentives.
You turn it to the next one, thank you. We've come before you a few times over the past few months. Again, our enterprise zone expired on December 31st of this past year. We have no applications right now that have been filed with the city, but we do know that Abby has told us that there are a couple that are going to be filed pretty soon. So it's time to really consider our enterprise zone and take action on it. Now, our enterprise zone, Jessica's our resident expert on the benefits of the enterprise zone, but what it is it's a tool for economic development. So businesses that create a certain level of investment into the building that they are going into are eligible for enterprise zone benefits, being tax abatement and then abatement of certain fees like utility fees and the permit fees. So there's a couple of incentives that they get with it, and we'd like to continue to offer them, but if we don't pass a enterprise zone, a resolution or ordinance enabling it, then we can't do that. So what you have before you is a map showing the proposed enterprise zone. This varies dramatically from the previously approved enterprise zone. This one would align with the proposed opportunity zone. The opportunity zone has already, the research has been done that there is a significant amount of disinvestment in this area, and that without these benefits, certain businesses may not be able to open or locate within City of Tifton. So what you're looking at is from Magnolia on the west side all the way over to South Main Street, and then from 2nd Street down to 82. So a pretty expansive area. You got the ridge that's got extreme disinvestment going on there. You got Commerce, which is about to undergo some major changes, but still I feel that we need to have these benefits for those that are actually improving those buildings along there. If you'll flip one more. And that's the approved opportunity, or the enterprise zone, excuse me. So we're looking at an area that is dramatically different from that. And the reason why it is all one enterprise zone, they just have different, I guess, names.
All right, any questions? Everybody good with the, Nabby, you've looked at the boundaries and you're happy with the boundaries? Because I know that impacts what you do from an economic development standpoint, so. All right, no comments? All right, good job, Crystal, thank you. All right, item number 7, ordinance to amend the city charter to establish the election districts consistent with the 2020 census and amending the code of ordinances. And I know we've talked about that a lot with redistricting. So any new information, Pete or Jessica, that we need to consider?
There isn't. Rob worked extensively on this, and it's really ready. If you were ready to go forward with this.
Yeah, at the last meeting, y'all chose to move forward with Plan 1. So we prepared that and prepared the map and the ordinance. So it is a charter amendment. I think Rob mentioned last time. So y'all will just see it over the next 2 months. So once it's presented at the council meeting, we'll run an ad in the paper. We'll have to have a public hearing and provide for public comment period. And then the next month, since it has to have 2 readings at council meetings, it would be officially adopted at the end of April. So we're just going with the plan that y'all chose and update, informing the public to review and comment at this time.
Right, so. Okay, that color-coded map is on page 35 in our packet, so you can see those changes there. Any comments, questions concerning the Plan 1 that we were all leaning towards at our last meeting? You good? Okay.
We're good there.
All right, very good. Y'all are a quiet bunch tonight. All right, and we have now moved to other business on our agenda and city manager's report. So Pete, call on you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. Please keep in mind, we're still seeking applicants for P&Z, planning and zoning. If you happen to know of anybody that has the background, real estate, or enjoys the zoning piece, if you'll please send their name to Jessica, we would appreciate it. Also, package sales, we have closed a window with applications. Jessica has filtered through those. There's been a couple that didn't meet the criteria, and she has communicated with them. And we are now ready to go to the next step, which is April the 6th, which is actual drawing. That'd be the next step in the process. And I'll be bringing on a third party to conduct that drawing, so I will let you know as soon as we have that locked in. But that's the next step in this movement. So
Okay.
we're on schedule. And then lastly, I was on the call with Georgia Department of Transportation on Friday, and they are close to letting the project on 8th Street out. And 8th Street, remember the project we discussed about taking an intersection from Virginia all the way to 75 and moving it outward to put a turn lane in, to have a devoted turn lane onto 75 and just increase the traffic and the capabilities of vehicular movement in that area. So that project's not too far off. That'll be a good one for us. And that is no cost to us. That is part of the T-SPLOST, and GDOT is funding that and the engineering of it. So we should see that very soon.
So they're gonna do something with that crazy turn. It's dangerous. Yeah,
Very dangerous.
If I get you killed, and you.
There'll be a devoted devoted turn lane onto 75, which will be great. Just in time to the old Diamonds and Gold building, right there on the right.
Discount down.
Yeah, that's scheduled to be demolished any time now. That's going to be coming down, and there's going to be a brand new store there. So it'll come in timing. That whole intersection will get a pretty good facelift.
Are they looking at the exit there by Affinity? You know how that?
Yeah, that's a bad one too.
That's crazy. Thing goes. I mean, it's just nobody knows how somebody can bring that up. Can they please?
Well, we could have them study, and we haven't had any accident
We've
data
talked
on-
to them before about that.
We did.
And what they did when we talked to them before is they came up with that third lane. And so.
Yeah, I had a good meeting with the new district engineer. His name's Scott Chambers, and he's a veteran of the department, 30-plus years. And we did talk, frankly, about movement and traffic in and around Tifton. And I said, Scott, we're just to the point, we're all grown up, and DOT has to understand that. And you look at the traffic on any given afternoon, especially on a Friday at 82 and 75, it's unsettling. And people, with people trying to get to where they're going, you have to come up with different plans. And actually, he told me that they're studying that, understanding the movement and looking at our plan. So I'll make sure I add
With the new development there, it's just going to get worse.
Right. So,
and people don't understand.
I will certainly add that to his list. So
You can't make a left-hand turn off of Poolwood right there by Affinity between 3 and 5:30. There's no way.
Coming off the interstate even.
There's no way. It's so hard.
It used to work before they put in that turn, where you can have a right-hand turn.
Yeah.
They used to not have one.
It's a great spot for a roundabout.
They run over that stop sign.
Stop.
There we go.
Traffic, right?
Stop. Are you done with your city manager?
I'm done.
Yeah. Thanks.
I would say so. Yeah, Mr. Roundabout. All right, that brings us to a conclusion. Our next item is mayor and council comments. I want to take just a few minutes to pat all of Tifton on the back. We had the movie premiere, which, by the way, made the AJC. I got emails and text messages from friends across the state that read the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, and we got great coverage, great color pictures, a full article, really, really good coverage. So that was exciting. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of work went into hosting that premiere. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention the outreach marketing group and all the team working so hard to pull off Rhythm and Ribs, which we've all agreed is probably our largest attendance that we've ever had. I've never seen so many people, but the weather was gorgeous. Vendors were happy, teams were happy, and of course we had Food Network here, which just added a whole nother level. They're telling us that show will premiere sometime in July. So watch for that. And they could not say enough nice things about Tifton. They just said they just kept saying this is the nicest city, and I said it's a friendly city. But anyway, they were very great visitors, and the weekend went off just in such a great way. So thank you to all the outreach marketing group and all the volunteers and all the people that helped make that happen. Our police department was there. The ESG team making sure that the park was clean. I don't know how they make that park look. On Monday morning, it looked like nothing had even happened. So thank you to them. Thank you to our fire department for being there to just kind of keep an eye and help make sure that there were no issues, and there weren't any. So just want to say thank you to everybody for that. Who wants to go next?
Anybody speak you want?
The quiet now.
Going once. Going twice.
Nobody wants to comment?
Nobody wants to comment.
I haven't. Yep. I'll go next since they haven't.
Jessica, would you please put that in the minutes that Jack Polk had no comment? Okay. Is there any other business that needs to come before the council this evening?
None whatsoever.
All right, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.